the boys take over. I guess. I don't know. That worked out better in my head. Okay. All right, it is 10.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Bunny 3000, along with Shawn, the Heartbreak Kid Richards. We are here. We are the Shaded Pixels podcast, where we break video games and such topics down to their shadings, their pixels, and everything in between. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. We are back. We are one man down. Shout out to Esteban, our other host. He is taking a mental breather, as we all need to do from time to time. So, me and Shawn are going to hold down the fort in his stead.
Oh, it feels good to be back, man. It feels good to be back. Just stretch my arms. Oh, yeah.
Say word, say word. It's always good to get it in, as we always do, because no one can do it like we do, right?
No, nobody can. No, people will try. People will always try, but they will always fail.
That's right, that's right. And that's why you guys are here. That's why you guys listen to us, and we appreciate that. Of course, tonight, as you see below in our nice, handy, dandy little Esteban area, where one of us or Shawn used to be, or you know how we used to have it, we have our thumbnail and our topic for today, where we will be discussing award shows. As you guys may or may not know, down below, you kind of see a clip of the Game Awards, which is, I guess you could say, the only widely publicized video game award show in the webosphere, intranets,
On the interwebs.
interwebs, wherever it is you guys are basically watching us. That's basically where they have the award show, right?
Yeah.
And originally, I think it was a show that they had on Spike TV
Yeah.
until Spike TV decided it's not pulling what we want. Sorry, guys, find yourself another venue. And it eventually became something. What was that? What's that guy's name? Kevin Keeley?
Jeff Keighley.
Jeff Keighley. Jeff Keighley, yes. He kind of took the reins, became the owner, producer, hosts, guru of the whole event. And he basically said that it is mainly supposed to be an amalgamation of games that we've made and games that are coming. And it's not meant to necessarily be the same as the Grammys or, you know, the Oscars or whatever, but it's rather supposed to be a meshing of those things, except with a flair that is all in of itself steeped in video game culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a celebration of
Right.
gaming and gamers. So while the Game Awards, as people will see them, you will have your Game of the Years, your best games, the games that did this, games that did that.
Mhm,
But it's
mhm.
also a celebration of gamers and gaming culture. And that's where we have announcements of new games that are upcoming.
Tons. Oh,
Oh, yes. And if you look at it, more and more, there's been a greater emphasis on esports. So much so that you've got about 7 awards this year
mhm,
dedicated just for esports. So it's not only just a celebration of the games, but also the gamers, the people who play these games, people who enjoy them, and just the culture that surrounds it.
So you wouldn't happen to have a listing of what like their categories and stuff are, would you?
Give me a second, I'll pull it right up for you.
Because
Uh,
it's kind of interesting because as this since this is our particular topic of the day, it's what we were kind of getting at by making it a topic is kind of dissecting the need or lack thereof for such an event,
and
you know.
yeah, the one thing about it is that whenever you look at award shows like the Oscars, like the Golden Globes, like the Grammys, you have, and the Emmys, you have ones that are, you have multiple ones for that type of media. So you have the Oscars and I think the Golden Globes are for movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Emmys and I don't know the other one. I know there's another one for TV shows. So you have multiple ones for different things,
Yep.
and you've actually kind of seen the ratings for those drop a lot over the course of the years.
Yeah.
And then for the Game Awards, granted, I feel like it's a lot better now that it's not on TV, because with it being streamed on Twitch and on other places, it's better for people who actually follow video games, because a
Right.
lot of times they don't really own TV service. They usually watch people on Twitch. That's where
Mhm.
you have a lot of people viewing it.
Right.
So having it be its own independent thing, it's much better. But at the same time, do we really need that type of thing? Especially when you have a lot of gaming outlets um, basically doing their own stuff, like IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer. We'll
Mhm.
probably talk about our favorite games of the year on here.
Mhm.
So you have a
Yes, we
lot.
will.
So you've got a lot of people. You've got a lot of different ones of those. So having this big celebration, in terms of it just being an award show, it's kind of fallen by the wayside, mostly because, like I said, with the other award shows going down in viewership, this one might be too. So,
So here's my thing.
and I got your list, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Lay it on me. Lay it on me.
All right. So the categories for this year for the Game Awards go as follows. It's gonna be a long list. You have Game of the Year, Best Ongoing Game, so games that have got more content going through. So games that constantly update. A lot of those are going to be your multiplayer games.
Overwatch, Fortnite, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you got those. Best Game Director, Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, Best Score or Music, Best Audio Design, Best Performance, Games for Impact, Best Independent Game, Best Mobile Game, Best VR or AR Game, Best Action Game, Best Action Adventure, Best Role Playing Game, Best Fighting Game, Best Family Game, Best Strategy Game, Best Sports and Racing Game, Best Multiplayer Game, Best Student Game, which I find really intriguing.
Student game?
Yeah. So games that, college students have made and put out there. That's
Okay.
a, that's a really nice one. If you remember Super Hot, that was actually one of the student games that came out. And it was just built upon before its actual release. And then Best Debut Indie Game. So non-indie game, an indie game from an indie studio. That's their first outing. It's their first hurrah,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay.
right?
It's like a
Then
Rookie of the Year award.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. See, you got this. We're both on this wavelength here.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. Then you've got your Content Creator of the Year. And they've had this for year.
Oh, kind of like
Your
YouTuber, streamer. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got the Esports Awards. It's got its own category. You've got Best Esports Game, Best Esports Player, Best Esports Team, Best Esports Coach, Best Esports Event, Best Esports Host, and then Best Esports Moment. So you've got a lot of esports going on there. I only follow Overwatch in terms of the esports, but I do know a lot of people follow a lot of different sports. Cheer on a bunch of different teams. So
Right.
I'm really glad to see that on there, to see that as a celebration of that type of culture. And I
Yep.
feel like that's when we get into the discussion of whether or not we need it or not. Like, people are always going to have their discussions of Game of the Year, but you know, you'll have those discussions about Game of the Year. Not many people are going to be talking about, okay, let's talk about esports. Let's shed some light onto the esports scene and what good they're doing. Because now you've got it to where esports are being covered by channels like ESPN, Fox Sports, You've got sports
And
channels.
that's still real new. That's not something that's been going on for a long time. So,
Exactly. It's going to be a point where you'll go into a bar or a restaurant and they'll be playing um, the Overwatch League on one of the TVs in there, and you can watch that. Be like, okay, that's cool. That's pretty awesome. And then you're on your favorite teams at that point. So I feel like that's going to be one thing there that kind of differentiates it from your typical normal game of the year stuff.
yep. So let's see. Here's my thing. Just in award shows in general, right?
Yeah.
I think in the past, award shows were really, really pivotal for the casual fan of a particular genre to know or recognize something that they may have missed or overlooked or may have heard about but didn't want to take a chance on, right? Because in the past, the way we consumed all of our media directly tied to how much money we made. So it was a lot. We were a lot more picky about what music album we bought, what video game we bought, what movie we went out to see or rent or whatever, because we had to pay a decent amount of money in order to do those things for all those mediums. So the Grammys, the Academy Awards, all those other kind of things, they would always have they would have some of your popular nominees that everyone's heard of because, they still want to draw everyone in, but they'd also have a couple of selections in that category where they'd be like, where you may have never heard of that person or that movie or, that song or something to that effect, right? Because they're using the people that are on their board to put in stuff that they enjoyed for the most part in terms of when they nominate stuff. So in the past, it was more important for people to watch and get into the award shows just to kind of give them or get them back on the scene or back up to the normal bar that everyone else in music or movies or whatever knew about already, right? So once you get into the internet and consuming all of this media a lot faster, a lot cheaper, it kind of changed the context of what they were going to have on these award shows because the entry gate into all of those mediums dropped a lot more when the internet hit and became big and a lot more people had access. So you got tons more people making music, tons more people making video games, tons more people making movies, to the point where there's no way possible for any one award show to be able to get all of the really, really good unseen talent out of any of those mediums, right? So, like you were saying, less and less people are interested in the award shows because for a while there, they'd still be kind of interested just to see who, they give the award to. And most of the time, they either already knew who it was or the person or medium or album or whatever they felt should be in the running wasn't even on the nomination, wasn't even on the ticket, So fans themselves became a lot more learned and knowledgeable about all of these different aspects of media to the point where the award shows, for the most part, didn't reveal anything to them anymore. For me personally, half the time I would only even watch award shows just to see who was performing and whether the performance was memorable,
Yeah.
And, you can always debate that depending on who you like and don't like. But for a long time, honestly, I haven't seen a really good performer of any kind on any of these award shows for the longest time. There's been a few on there that have kind of surprised me here and there, but award show performances just aren't as spectacular, or you just don't have that same kind of talent performing on award shows like that anymore, in my opinion. So that aspect of it has also dropped in a way.
Yeah.
You got less quality live performances. You got less of a surprise in terms of your nominations as well as your awards. And I was kind of reading an article also on Wired, and they were critiquing the Game Awards themselves. And their key point was some of the categories that just like you read, Sean, some of the categories when you start getting into parsing games by a particular genre is like impossible to do nowadays because so many different games have so many different elements of different genres in them that it's hard to look at a game and say that game is only in that category, you
Yeah.
know? Because it was real interesting. Me and one of my best friends had a not necessarily a knockdown, drag out fight argument, but we had a serious argument about whether or not Witcher 3 was at its roots a role playing game.
Yeah.
And he would argue with me one way or the other, and same thing with Mass Effect. We would both look at it from different angles. I would look at both of them and I would tell him, though neither one of those games are at their core a role playing game. They're action games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the only reason why why like Mass Effect was even considered a role playing game is because BioWare, their past games were all role playing games, and they were making an attempt to make their games more accessible to casual fans, so they integrated more action into them. But since that was BioWare's first, kind of action game, they just said, "Oh yeah, that's still a role playing game." Yeah, go ahead, throw it in that category, and it's still to this day considered one of the best, one of the better role playing game franchises. And same thing with Witcher. Well, not same thing, but Witcher was kind of interesting because, from my understanding, like the first couple of Witchers were strictly action games, basically. They had RPG elements to them, but as each sequel went on, the RPG elements got bigger and bigger. But, you look at it, you play it, you jump on that horse, you start swinging your sword around. That's not just Final Fantasy fight, defend, item or whatever, like your old school role playing games. That is straight up Tomb Raider style action.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, Sean. It's kind of hard, or like Wired said, it's kind of hard to categorize games by one genre nowadays. It's just kind of interesting.
And my workaround for anything like that is basically whenever you have best role playing game, basically look at which game did role playing the best, or were most innovative in doing that role playing. And yeah, if you have to say, okay, what is role playing game? Okay, role playing game has to have this and this and this and this and this and this and this.
Which evolves every year, just by nature of the developers, it evolves.
Yeah, it reminds me of the way we look at biology, because the way we rate mammals is basically if it produces milk and it has hair, then it's a mammal. So by that manner of speaking, a coconut is a mammal. But that just goes to show it's just like, well, it has these elements. It's a role playing game, but you can play the game and be like, I had no idea this was role playing.
Right.
Because if it's just like, oh, it gives you choices that determine the course of the game, and you have all this type of stuff. It's like, well, this is clearly an adventure game, but it's like, no, it's an RPG.
Or no, it's a narrative game. You're like, what?
Exactly. You have those different things. It's just like, well, if you look at it this way, Call of Duty is a role-playing game. I'll be like, no, it's not. You just have to, but whenever you get into those type of awards where it's just like best role-playing game, best action game, you get into the point where it's just like, would you really call it that? I mean, I don't like role-playing games, and I don't think I would call that a role-playing game. Or if it's something along the lines of, say, I wanted to get into, how like you were talking about movies. I was like, you know what? I haven't really watched this movie, but I like these other type of movies, so I think I'll like this one.
Right.
It's like saying, well, I don't like, but I like role playing games, but I haven't heard this one called, let's see here. I haven't heard this one called, oh, I don't know, Tekken 7. I guess I should try that out. But yeah, you laugh, but hell, like a lot of the fighting games out there will have leveling and everything else like that.
Yeah.
You have freaking
a lot of them do
Brothers that has role playing elements to it. So if you call it like that, it's just like, well, you put stats in these things, and you level up, and you can find and equip different items. Clearly, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate is a role playing game. If you call Super Smash Brothers a role playing game, I will smack you.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it's just a difficult thing nowadays to do that kind of, parsing of games. That's why when you first started reading out the list, I was like, okay, for a while there, I was like, okay, I like these categories, because they're dealing with something very specific, best game developer, best studio, best, that kind of
Art
thing.
direction,
yeah, art direction, best sound design, that you can definitely just say, that's easy in terms of finding nominations and stuff like that for. But then, then we went to best action adventure, and then I went, huh? It was like, okay, what's the difference between the two? Action, adventure, and then, next thing you know, best RPG, and we're like, oh, great. There could technically be a game that could be in all three of those categories.
Yeah. Like, I'm looking at some of the games that are nominated for those. Which I think used to, I don't see it on here, but used to, you had best best PlayStation game, best Nintendo game, best Xbox game. Put those up, but now I've seen those nominees are off the list. But I'm looking at best action game, best action adventure. Like on best action game, they have Far Cry 5, which I would call that action adventure. But on best action adventure, you have games like God of War. Or best role playing game, they have. Okay, those are all definitive role playing games. That I have no problem with. I'm trying to think of. Yeah, it's just those type of games out there that you have to just take a look at, be like, no, I don't feel like that qualifies.
Right. It's a mixed bag. You're just like, yeah. But I mean, you think about it, that's a common thing for issue that award shows have. And for example, earlier this year, was it this year? I think it was earlier this year.
Are you talking about Get Out?
Heck yeah. That was
where it was classified as a comedy.
Yeah, like a music comedy. And honestly, I think when they first showed not teasers, what's the word I'm looking for? When they started demoing the movie across the country and showing it to people, that's kind of how they were promoting it at first. And then once they recognized that a lot of people, as they started resonating and reacting to it, they were like, they weren't necessarily calling it a horror film, but they were like, this is a lot more serious and a lot more closer to real life than the writer even intended it to be. So it kind of morphed in terms of the reaction that people had to it, from, yeah, this is a comedy, to being, this is a horror movie or a psychological thriller with comedy elements in it, so they, and they kind of and I don't want to say they botched the nomination in terms of what category they put it in, but by the time it came award season, that's what everyone was doing. They were looking at it like, okay, no, it's not in the right category. This thing is, what I mean? The public were looking at it as not a comedy at all. So, it's very, very interesting to kind of see those kind of problems and issues rise up in all the other award shows, because I'm sure there's been that kind of thing in the Grammys. You know what I mean? All the time I hear people talk about like certain bands and stuff like that, because they always talk about, oh yeah, rock and roll is dead because the bands and stuff that they nominate at the Grammys for rock category, a lot of people just look at it and go, that's not rock, that's pop. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? So it's interesting to see that in all mediums, that there's a real difficulty with classifying, different things, and actually having nominations where you can sit there and go, yep, I agree with all those nominations, this is the right category.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah. Another thing that I feel like a lot of people are giving flack on award shows for, especially your Oscars and your Grammys and all that kind of good stuff, is the fact that for many of them, they don't know who's voting for it, because most of those is voted by, I think the Oscars is just like the Movie Association of America or something like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But basically it's has this, they say, panel of experts or panel of people who know all about movies and have watched movies all this time, and most of them are old white guys like Congress. And guys, look it up. I mean, I swear it's like you have,
well, that's the thing,
Congress, and I can barely distinguish the two.
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember, and I'm certain a lot of other people remember. I can't remember. It was on both the Grammys and at the Oscars. There was the whole Twitter Oscars so white, hashtag that was going viral at that time a few years back. And of course, there were a lot of people that were they were boycotting the Grammys because they wouldn't show like the rap category or something to that effect, and as well as certain artists that clearly had like a massive year or whatever that didn't even get nominated in that category. And for like the last, I remember I saw an interview, I think with can't remember if it was with Questlove or if it was with John Legend or something like that. They were basically talking about how not necessarily disappointed, but they were like, okay, if you're upset about who's being nominated, and I think this was particularly for the Grammys, they were like, when they send those invites out to you guys for you to join the panels, for them to do the judging and do the nominations, accept it. Don't ignore it, and don't just pass it off and say somebody else I know will do it. Accept it, because they did and have been making efforts to diversify the critics and the people and the judges and judging and everything, mainly because the public as well as the industry pushed for it. They yearn for it. Social media's been pushing for all this change and everything, and they're looking for it. But the other end of the coin is, okay, now that you're getting the opportunity for it, you got to step up to the call. And a lot of times that's always difficult, because you kind of have to not necessarily push the old guard out, but it starts redefining, and as with any other kind of change, it starts redefining what should and could become nominated at these award shows. And I think I want to say maybe this past decade has shown that there's been a lot of progress, but there's still a long ways to go in terms of, when it comes to representation and getting to the point where everybody is satisfied with what is considered the top-notch talent, the top-notch delivery in all of those mediums. It's a hard thing, with there being so much out there. It's really, really, really hard to put that kind of a stamp, on just one thing, because that's the thing, like you said, that's the thing with award shows. It's so difficult because there can only be one, like Highlander. Only one gets the trophy for every category, so it'd be interesting to see something.
Sort of lop off the heads of everybody else.
Right, yeah. It's like that one person is the one that gets the notoriety, and then everybody else that get nominated is just like, oh, who are you? Wait, you were nominated? I don't remember that, because no one remembers number 2 or 3 or 4. They just remember who walked away with the
Yeah,
trophy.
they're just like, oh, you're not as good as the movie where the woman fucks the fish.
Right. Oh, that drove me crazy. But but yeah, that's kind of how it boils down. A lot of more people will say, "Oh, this movie did so much better than all the other movies. It was so much popular." But that's not necessarily the way you go about it in terms of giving an award show, unless you're doing the what is it called the what's the one award show that is it the MTV Awards? They do it by popular vote, or the American Awards, or TV Choice Awards, or something like
TV
that, right?
Choice Awards, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they do it by just strictly popular vote. I know MTV does they do 1 or 2 of their categories by popular vote. I think it's like I can't remember if it's artist of the year or album of the year or something like that. They do by popular vote, and I think all the rest of them are like, they have their own little critical panel of judges or something to that effect. But it would be interesting to see an award show do something a bit different when it comes to that, where instead of just giving one award for a category, maybe, giving, saying that, okay, in this category, all the people that are nominated in the category get the award, or something to that effect. Because if the idea is for you to bring to light stuff that people haven't seen, heard of, or have heard of but don't quite understand, they need to make, I feel like they need to make less categories, and then, rather than just doing something where you just show a clip of someone standing in the crowd and saying, yeah, that's Jay-Z, yeah, that's Kendrick Lamar, and just saying, then okay, only one of you get the award. Maybe having like a short, not even like 30-second long clip where you explain why it was nominated, or why it was so good, or how it performed, and what brought its attention to the judges board or whatever to even make it nominated, so people understand why this is considered, the top-notch game, or why it's considered the top-notch music or movie,
Yeah.
or whatever, for that category.
Maybe bring out one of the people from the board, have them like just come out, or have just a video blurb of them for like maybe just 30 seconds, and just be like, this is why I'm right behind this game, or this is why I, am much behind this movie. I feel like it did this, and then this, and then this, and this is why I feel like it's better than the rest.
Right.
If you have someone like that, not only does it shed light onto who is behind the scenes actually voting and making the decisions, but you also get people be like, okay, that's why I should probably watch this movie,
Right.
What's it, three billboards outside?
Yep.
Yeah, because, if it weren't for the fact that I actually watched reviews and everything like that, I wouldn't have thought, you know what, I actually really want to see this movie. Maybe get people to be like, okay, hey, this is why I think it's nominated, this is why I like it. You get people actually wanting to go out, wanting to see this, and then you have those outlets be like, you know what, yeah, instead of them having to go out, research on their own, be like, okay, why did this get nominated? Let me type this into YouTube and figure out, oh, there's this random, reviewer that liked it. Here, let me watch his review. No, don't do that. Have people out there actually, fuck it, just say what it is. Go out there and promote it.
Yep.
And say, you know what, I like this movie. Here's why I like it. And then go out there and do it. If you don't do that, you are left people hanging. Be like, okay, this is a good movie.
Yep.
Well, I like it or not, because people will like fish fucking. I don't. I will still harp on that. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I watched parts of it when my wife was watching it, doing my daughter's hair, and even when she was done with it, she was like, I didn't like it as much as I thought I was gonna like it, but I can understand why it was nominated. It was a creative way of approaching subject matter that I guess you could say is relevant today. You know, you talking about racism and being different and standing up for who all different. They had all different kinds of themes that are common themes in movies, but they took them and they meshed them together in a very fantastical way and created something that is definitely left field. Definitely left field. And because of that, they could see why it was nominated, because it was a creative way to reimagine a lot of those themes. Now, whether or not I would have selected it as the winner is, of course, opinion. Apparently a lot of them were just like, okay, out of all these, which was the one that blew you out of the water? It may not be the best, but guess what? It definitely shocked the hell out of everybody. So they were like, you know what? Give it to the fish fucker. But I don't know. I think award shows are always going to be criticized because like we were talking about earlier, there can only be one, and because of that, it's difficult to shine a light on all the nominees and then give somebody a tie and then give somebody the trophy, and that will essentially, by nature, dim the light of all the other nominees. But in our opinion, just like we were talking about earlier, at the very least, doing more to showcase the nominees in these categories, I think will go a lot further. So for award shows like the Oscars and the Grammys, it's impossible to do that because they have so many categories, so many nominees, and that award show would basically be like going to the NFL draft. It would be a day-long affair. They wouldn't, it wouldn't be an event anymore. It would be like a festival. And hey, what's wrong with the festival? You could have a day-long affair. You could have a day-long affair. All those other people, they wouldn't have to dress up in Texas and stuff. They can dress up in whatever they wanted, come and go as they please, as long as they're there for when their category is there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They make it a festival where the public can be there. A lot more of the public can be there and present and cheer them on. Scream and shout for the people they love and everything. Have a nice little pathway that you can walk through the crowd or whatever with security or whatever or something. High five all your fans.
Go on for like, hey, there's they're presenting an award you don't care about, but over down there, they're having a performance by Jay-Z. You can go down there and watch that go through.
There you go.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. Dude, we're going to start this.
There you go.
It's going to be an idea. It's going to be trademarked.
There you go. Instead of doing the Game Awards, make it into a freaking convention. Just call it the Game Awards Convention and just have a weekend-long affair where all you're doing is showcasing, like each day, they could separate it. They can do it one day for esports, one day for content creators, one day for game developers, and and they can do all the little categories and all other kind of stuff on each one of those days, and then in between, they have all the entertainment and stuff in between. They'll have all the tournaments. They'll have, they can have all of the celebrities and stuff to come in and do performances and stuff like that. But I just want to say they got to work on their little performances, though, because I remember that, what was it, I want to say the second, whatever year it was that Metal Gear came out, and old girl had to come out and sing that little weird-ass Metal Gear song that's in that game.
I think it was 2015.
Yeah, I cringed through that whole performance. That was so cringy, and I'm sorry to whatever her name is. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're very talented. I'm sure there's a lot of people that love that song, but I'm telling you, I felt like the crowd was cringing. I was cringing, and the song was too long. You know what I mean? It was like, I can understand it if it's like a little 3-minute jobber, but oh man, that was painful for me. It just was painful.
And you have, that's just to be completely honest, that's one thing the Game Awards have actually been trying to avoid yet dip back into. Like
Mm-hmm.
last year, you had
Who
the
they have
Shake
performed
Hydro
last year?
Man. What?
Who they? No, no. Oh. Actually, they did actually have a couple of performances that I did like. I forget there was that one guy, and that might have been the one that you're talking about. They had that one guy that did the laser light performance where he was playing the laser lights or whatever around him and was doing music or whatever, and he was doing all this kind of stuff. Dude, that blew everybody's mind when he did. I
Yeah.
think that was at one of the. I think that was one of the Game Awards that he did that.
Yeah,
at.
that was one of the performances. No, I'm talking about last year where they had the product placement where they were trying to like show razors, and you had like the guy dressed up in a razor mascot costume just walking around. They would always show him off. I'm like, no, just get him away from the screen.
Yeah. They did that probably because somebody gave them way too much money, and they're like, yeah, we need a mascot to walk around so that we can always have our product on the screen. I would have been like, man, get out my face. Just give me the money and walk on.
Yeah. But one big aspect about the Game Awards that I feel like is going a little bit to the wayside,
Mm-hmm.
especially since you were talking about we're talking about promoting new games coming out. A lot of game companies will be like, you know what, we're going to be announcing something at the Game Awards,
Yeah.
or just stay tuned at the Game Awards, and you might hear something.
Mm-hmm.
One,
It's another opportunity for them to do that.
yeah, and used to, you would just crowd around the TV or you crowd around the computer, and be like, you know what games are going to be, what trailers are going to be out there, man. I can't wait to see that. Now you've got games leaking all the time.
Oh yeah, trailers leaking all the time. All that stuff.
Man.
Gameplay leaking all the time.
Yeah. Or you've got people going out and be like, oh yeah, here's this rumor coming out, and then they'll be like, no, we're going to be there, but we're just not going to show anything.
Pretty much.
Yeah, you got people debunking rumors left and right to the point where it's just like, man, it's kind of ruining the fun of all that.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense. And then you've got, for the past couple of years before this, you had the PlayStation Experience Showcase. That was the next day after that. This year they're doing the Kind of Funny Showcase, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of Funny Game Showcase, where they're showcasing a lot of different games and making those announcements and all that kind of stuff. And not to say there won't be announcements at the Game Awards, but I feel like they've been kind of dialing it back because you have those game companies kind of going with these other events or just how releasing trailers themselves. I mean, why be flooded by, why be stuck in the middle of 15 different game announcements where your game will probably get lost in the shuffle, where you could basically just
strategically release it and then be like, haha.
just be like, Tuesday after the Game Awards are out, here's this trailer for this game. Be like, oh, I didn't know that was coming out.
Yep.
Whereas if you did it through the Game Awards, be like, what was that? What was that trailer?
Yeah, the one that came on
or after the new Metal Gear trailer.
Yeah. There was something that came out before the Halo trailer. I just don't know what it was. Who cares? The Halo trailer was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And then, that will be another way to promote games, but that's stopped happening since, you're seeing it with E3 now. E3 used to be the place where all the new games would get announced and people would tune in and people would love it, but now you've got companies backing out of E3 or not really showing
doing their own presentations. I hate that. I'm like, what? A PC game show? I was like, are you serious? The PC community decides they need their own separate show to talk about the exact same games that are going to get released on Xbox, or the exact same games that are going to be released on PlayStation or something like that. I'm like, dude, that's totally unnecessary. It's like,
yeah, and you've got that point where it's just like, I don't really feel like it's necessary. You got people be like, oh, this is the death of E3 because it's no longer needed. And then you look at the Game Awards or award shows in general, you don't really see too many. I mean, I don't remember watching the Oscars and seeing a bunch of trailers for movies that are going to be coming out, or be like, here is a world premiere trailer for the new Avengers movie or some stuff like that.
Yeah, not for big ones. I've seen a couple. I've seen a couple of times when they've had presenters come up and they talk about their new movie that's coming out. And then on some of the lesser award shows, like I forget what award show it was. It might have been actually it might have been like the BT Awards or something like that. You'll be presenting something for music, and then all of a sudden the the presenters themselves will say, "Hey, we're coming out with a movie. Check out this trailer for our movie first." And then once the trailer's done, they come back and then announce the nominees for the thing. And I'm like, "What just happened?"
Yeah, and it kind of breaks the flow of it.
Right?
Because,
Yeah.
you've got a nice flow where people will be like, okay, here's a presentation, here's the awards, here's a speech or a skit or something, maybe a musical number or two, and then we go on and so on and so forth. And then when you've got the Game Awards coming out, you've got that type of flow as well. You've got, here's the trailer, here's some nominees, here's maybe somebody talking about how games changed their lives.
Yeah.
Then move on to best indie game, something like that.
Right.
And here's one thing that really bothered me about the Game Awards as they are right now. And I think you see this with all the other award shows too. This kind of irks me just as a pet peeve. You have how many nominees did I list out? Like just a ton of them.
Oh, categories? Yeah, lots of categories.
You might hear about 10 of them, and then all the other ones are just like, oh yeah,
we gave out this award earlier.
Yeah, while we cut to commercial, we already announced the Games for Impact. I'm like, you could have put that on stage. It's kind of what they're here for. You don't put that on stage. What's the purpose of having the category?
Yep.
That
that was like big contention, like I was saying before, for like the Grammys. It's like, oh yeah, the whole hip hop R&B category isn't even going to be on stage. They're just going to give out the award. You're like, what? So that's why all the ones that were nominated, they were all like, we're not going. Mail us our trophy if we win. Thank you very much.
Make sure it doesn't break in the shipping.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's something that just, I don't know if it bothers you as much as it does me, but that's something that I kind of...
Well, at first, because I mean, technically speaking, that's what they did or have always done at the Grammys for their smaller or lesser known categories. So like classical music and show tunes and certain category or jazz or whatever like that, they won't televise those, but they'll give out the awards. But it's one thing to have the category and not show it if it's like a category that has nominees that not many people know. So if it's something to that effect where you're like, oh, I've never heard of that person or game or artist or whatever, it's one thing for you to do it for categories like that. But like the big issue, in particular, for example, in the Grammys is, hip hop R&B is it's like the top grossing music genre. Why wouldn't you have that televised? Because
Exactly.
that makes zero sense. And to your point, like the Impact Award or something like that, more than likely, if it's considered the impact, then that means that there's a lot of energy or buzz or has affected a lot of people. Why wouldn't you show that? That would mean a lot, not only to the fans of the people that are nominated, but to the people that are nominated. You got to put at least one or a few of those lesser known categories in there. It's just like the whole Rookie of the Year thing. It's like a lot of people aren't going to know who those rookies are or who those, like what was it, the debut indie developer award. You got to show stuff like that because that's like showing the incoming talent into whatever genre that the award show's even for. So you've got to show stuff like that to kind of publicize the people that no one's heard of before, but daggone it, you better take heed because they're doing some quality work and they're going to be producing, possibly the next $1 billion franchise coming soon. You know what I mean? You gotta publicize stuff like that.
Yeah, but going back to that earlier, if you just have it out there where, you have Jeff Keighley going out and be like, IGN gave this a 9 out of 10 because of this and this and this, and then you have this nominee where GameSpot gave it this rating because of this, or maybe even having, the people who reviewed them come out and just say, hey, or just play it. A lot of people put their clips on YouTube of their reviews. Just like play a clip from the review. People, the reason why people love it, or show people having that type of discussion out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you have those discussions out there, and people, talking about it, then you'll be like, oh yeah, that definitely would like to play this game because of the games that are nominated for Game of the Year. I'm just gonna tell you, Celeste and Monster Hunter World are not the same games as Spider-Man or Red Dead Redemption 2. So I could like one and hate the other. That's fine. They're two different types of games.
Right.
But they both need to have their names out there. So basically putting that out there. And that goes into, I think, one of my last points about it. And that's honestly the presenters. We were talking about like cringe earlier. And you have to watch out who you put up there. I'm being serious,
Yes, you do. You really do.
You need to make sure you don't have someone out there that's just going to say in a family-friendly show, fuck the Oscars.
Yep.
As our thumbnail shows, that didn't really go over well.
Yeah, it usually does it.
Yeah, but, you have people, you have... Who hosted the Oscars this year? Was it Jimmy Kimmel?
Oh, I didn't even watch it. I don't even remember now.
I don't remember. But, you have people that go out there and host these award shows. And, if you have a good host that's out there, charismatic, you get a bunch of different presenters out there, you have people that people will go in there and watch.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's this famous YouTuber that I watch all the time and be like, oh yeah, this person's presenting at the Game Awards. I'll watch that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you have someone out there like or even a musical performance that I don't like, then I'm probably not going to stick around to watch it.
Yeah, because if you think about it, trying to set up a musical act or performance for a video game award show is it's near impossible to really do well if you kind of think about it, because I can't even remember. A lot of times, a few times at the Game Awards, I've seen they've had a few popular acts, maybe at like the beginning or at the end. No, most of the time their popular acts are at the end, right? Because didn't they have like Imagine Dragons do it one year or something like that?
I think it was last year they had Imagine Dragons.
Yeah. So, and most of the time the people they select for that popular act are bands or people that are already big gamers anyway. So they were already interested in the award show to begin with. So that makes sense. But because you don't have top name popular talent that are interested in your genre necessarily, a lot of them to choose from, it's hard to select. Because in the Grammys is easy because everybody, you got all of your music stars there. For the Oscars and stuff like that, it's relatively easy also because for the most part you can select one or more movies that had a really, really popular artist do something on the soundtrack, and you can basically do that song. Or you can even have, if it's a show tune, which oftentimes they have, that was really big, they can do that performance also.
Yeah,
so that,
this past year at the Oscars, I think it was Jesus Christ Superstar that was nominated, and they had John Legend go out there, and that was one of the big musical numbers that they had out, and they performed.
Right.
I think they even have a category about best original song inside a movie. And you have that.
Right.
Games really don't have that they have important music, but
Yes.
not.
Popular music.
I don't even want to say popular. I mean, they don't have really popular music. I
Well,
mean,
not yeah, I guess not even popular, but it
performable.
mainstream, yeah, mainstream popularity music that would draw attention with a live performance. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you have, I mean, at the Game Awards, I wouldn't be surprised if you have whoever sings the new Smash Brothers song go out there. Well, because now it
Yep.
has lyrics,
Right.
but so you have, them going out there and having a nice little number with that, playing it through, and you have, songs that could be popular.
Mm-hmm.
If Ubisoft's conference at E3 showed us anything, is that it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
But just like Ubisoft's conference at E3 this year, it can also show it cannot be. Sometimes it can't be done well, and you need to make sure that that's the biggest point about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a great performance, yeah, you might hear a little bit of buzz here and there, but not many people are going to be talking about it months afterwards.
Right.
You have a bad performance, that will go down in history.
Oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, you brought it up, and it's been how many years?
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
3 or 4 years at least.
Yeah, so you've got like that going out, but you have a magnificent, spectacular, just performance. People might remember it next year, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And like we said before, especially with like the Grammys and stuff like that, it's hard to get those acts and whatever so that you can have those kind of memorable performances that people talk about, you know, like like Michael Jackson's Motown anniversary performance. It's
Yeah,
hard to have legendary performances unless you have legendary performers. And because it's hard to find any kind of performer in any genre that are considered legendary nowadays, it's hard to have those kind of live show moments where it's not the same experience as what you would see at a concert,
yeah,
because that's what the award show performances are supposed to be. They're supposed to be a high theater version of a concert,
yeah.
right?
Like a Michael Jackson tribute,
Right.
or something like that. Something that can only be done at that
Award
award.
show. Right.
And music has that. Movies have that, where you can just celebrate, great directors, or Betty White, who's older than dirt. But games really don't have that as much, and I think
Yeah,
that's one
it's
thing where they really
difficult.
struggle. I mean, you have games for Impact where you have like this game helped me out through a rough time in my life. Okay, yeah, that's great, and that deserves to be shown, and good on you. But you don't really have, you can't really say, well, this developer's been here for 25 years. Let's have a cool, nice little, you know, like I think Nintendo's turning 25 this year. In terms of or it's been 25 years since the gaming crash. 35 years.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, they're a bit older than that. It gotta be. They were.
Yeah, because it was 83,
Yeah,
so
it's 80 something. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
35 because I'm
30.
25 right now, and I was born in 93. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
35
30.
years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like celebrating like the history of that, you can do a nice performance of that,
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
but there's not too much you can do at that point.
Yep. That's why I was thinking, I was like, when it comes to gaming culture, one of the things that I think would be interesting is they have a host of, I guess you could call it alternative genres that focus around gaming music and gaming culture, whether it's nerdcore or I don't necessarily want to call it EDM, but there's some EDM or chiptune artists or whatever that whether it's their lyricism, whether it's their sound effects, or whether it's the tracks they sample, all center around gaming and gaming culture. And it would be interesting if the gaming awards would tap into that talent and try to showcase some of the better ones of, that talent pool, so that at least those artists would have I guess you could even call it a mainstream outlet to get their name out there and showcase, hey, we don't only just make music, we can perform as well. So that at least it will be an incentive for those artists in those genres to do more than just make the music. They can actually become performers and want to be better performers, so that they can get on the game awards and it be something that people talk about and say, oh my God, look at that laser light show guy. Man, I don't remember his name, but I remember, it sticks in my mind when he did it, that it was a great performance, and I will look for it whenever I remember it, that kind of thing. Something that was mainstream. No one had heard of that guy, but his performance was related to gaming culture, and he was a legit talented performer and artist, and they brought it to light. And it's hard to find that kind of talent, but if they continue to do that sort of thing, you're going to get a lot more of those kind of artists that are going to push their artistry to that point so that they can showcase them more.
Yeah, because you go on there and it's basically you will remember it in good or in bad.
Yes, especially the bad.
Yeah, but just having the chance to go on there and be like, you know what, I showcased at the Game Awards. You want to know how? People might be like, oh, it's just a gaming award show. No, it's still an award show. Millions of people still watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by the Game Awards history that they have up, 2017, 11.5 million people watched it.
It's not bad.
So you are a small little indie artist. You might have done work on, this one game. There's a guy I follow on YouTube. He did work on Crypto the Necrodancer. And, he does a lot of performing. He does a lot of music for that.
Mm-hmm.
And, bring him up on stage. He plays, he performs, and then he gets that, big acclaim. And, maybe a lot of people played the game but didn't know, oh yeah, this is a guy that played it. I really enjoyed his music. I'm going to look into that a lot more. And suddenly your audience has grown significantly because you've got millions of people watching it, which, I mean, you've got people who watch it more than the Oscars because they care more about it.
Yep.
But then, of course, it's always fun to watch for the cringe, too. I'm not going to lie. That's kind of half the reason I want to watch it, just to see, okay.
How bad is this going to have? What kind of a dumpster fire is this going to be?
Yeah. How is Jeff Keighley going to screw this one up? He does his best.
Oh, man.
With it going independent.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, man. Award shows. Gotta love, hate them.
But they're still fun. I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon, and I hope they don't.
No, I'm 100% certain they're not going to go away. Honestly, I've got a weird feeling that we're going to start seeing more award shows rather than less. And just for the minute, and a part of me says that because a lot more of these shows, I feel like, are trying to bridge the gap. So, like, I remember watching the Soul Train Awards not too long ago, and the hosts that they used on the show were two actresses from the Martin show. So Tachina Arnold and what is the other girl's name? Gina. Basically, the women who played Pam and Gina on the Martin show, right? And they both did a great opening act where they basically, and they actually partly produced the whole show, where they basically did a bunch of 90s songs, and they kind of did like a medley. So they danced and sang some of those songs through the whole intro. And then at the end of their medley, they brought out Belle Biv DeVoe, and Belle Biv DeVoe did their performance or whatever. And then they launched into the award show. And they even said it. They were trying to showcase the award show as something that would bring a lot of the old, because they were given like a Lifetime Achievement Award and, you know, that kind of thing there as well as bring in the new talent and kind of merge everybody and say, this is where it came from, this is where it's at, and this is where it was at the beginning. And they brought a lot of that throughout the entire show, which I thought was brilliant. Because, I mean, honestly, in an award show, that's kind of what you want. You want it to showcase all the new stuff. You also want to pay homage to the legends and the stuff that came before. And then, of course, you know, all the stuff in between. You want to do that on every award show so that you recognize the new, pay homage to the foundation, and then everything in between. And I think because of all the things we were talking about with genres and the issue was with genres and stuff like that, that always brings up the opportunity for the ones that are the most passionate about a specific genre to break out and do their own thing, to focus in on the real passionate fans or hardcore fans in that particular genre, and have their own award show that highlights all the stuff that's truly in their genre. So I think there's always an appetite for that. It's, as with anything, it's just trying to figure out where's the right outlet for it, which is the growing pains that the Game Awards found. You know, they tried to do it with the Man, you know, on the Man channel, Spike TV. That's where we'll put the Video Game Awards.
I think that's actually like, I don't think Spike TV's around anymore even.
No, it's not. It's not anymore. I forget what it went from the Spike. It was like Spike TV, then it became it was like some magazine that was supposed to be for men. They renamed the channel that, and then after that flopped, they just closed the whole channel down. Yeah. So yeah, it's hard to find a good outlet. But now that the interwebs are out there, all you need is a forum. All you need is a space. And you promote it the right way and have content creators notify people and get your social media game up, you'll have your audience. With the internet, it's not that hard. It really isn't.
Like, the best decision they made was putting it on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a smaller venue because they lost some of that Spike funding. But once they put it on Twitch, you've got people who actually sit down and watch it on Twitch, because people lost their cable TV, and people don't want to pay money for Spike TV if they're not going to watch it.
Word.
Yeah, you can go to Starbucks, get your late night cappuccino, and put on the Game Awards in the background, just to kind of watch that.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but just like we do on our channels, people share it around, people host it on their channels. So you've got IGN, partnering with them, be like, you know what, on our Twitch channel, we're going to host the Game Awards so that people can watch it on so many other different outlets, trying to spread the word.
Mm-hmm.
It's only going to get better and better as, they outgrow some of their growing pains. Maybe, they find a lot of these different performers that would be like, you know what, I'd like to come on there and do a performance or two on the Game Awards. And they find that niche there.
Yep.
Where they find, people who are great at, showcasing games and being a magnificent announcer. Be like, hey, we're going to get you to come back so that you can announce, the games for Impact, or host this segment.
Yep.
Or just things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to get better. I agree with you. And I hope to see again, like you said, more of these awards go on there. Maybe it's not just the game awards. You have the Golden Joystick Awards and all these other ones
Yeah.
that kind of go out at different times so that you can have, okay, you have the game awards, but we also have our awards that we're going to go out and showcase and have a nice little thing about. And, instead of being the game awards, these are going to be user voted, and, you can vote on this website.
Yep.
You have potential for it to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope it does. I'm excited to see where it goes, because that only means it's going to get better and better. It's going to go higher and higher up.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things. If, like you were saying before, the viewership for the Game Awards, so I'm 100% certain some other guy that has, that is a video game fan that has a ton of money, that's in the entertainment industry, is looking right now for funding after seeing the viewership that, the Game Awards had last year for, that award show. They're going to take it, they're going to run with it, they're going to say, okay, this is what Jeff Keighley does. Here's what we can do different, and here's what we can focus on that'll be different. He shows a lot of game trailers and stuff. Why don't we not show a lot of game trailers and turn it into a convention kind of atmosphere with esports or something like, somebody has that idea that has more money than us that is going to jump on that, and they're going to come out with, just like you said, the Joystick Awards or, something to that effect. I'm telling you, people always want to know what the best of something is for a particular given year. Just for the mere fact you got people that are casual fans of anything that are looking for guidance on what to get into for a short while when they're consuming whatever it is they're consuming. And award shows and awards are an easy way to go about highlighting that. That's why E3 does it, which is hilarious to me, because at E3 you're giving out awards for stuff that isn't even released yet. I think that's the most laughable thing in the world, but it's still something that they showcase on box art and on promotional material for games before it even comes out. Like, hey, we had a 5-minute demo that won an E3 award. You should try our game. And people will go, you know what? It did work out really well as a demo at E3 3 years ago, because the game's been in development for 3 years since that demo. Yeah, I think, you know what? I'm going to try this game because of an award. It's funny how that works, but it's definitely something that's never going to go away.
And if you would like to give us funding, have millions of dollars, you can always email us at shadedpixelspodcast@gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to accept your money and premiere the Shaded Pixels Podcast official gaming award convention.
Heck yeah, bud. Heck yeah. That's fun to talk about. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think you got the point. I think you got the idea. Game shows have a lot of work to do. The Game Awards, it's still young. It still has room to grow. There's good things we've seen in it, and there's good things that are coming. Apparently, some of those categories are new categories that I like. So they're starting to showcase a little bit more. But there's definitely a lot of room to grow. And that's true with all award shows, not even just the Game Awards.
Yeah.
As usual, ladies and gentlemen, look up above our heads there, and you will see all of our socials, all the little social media areas, as well as YouTube and Twitter and everything. You can talk to us, chat with us, ask us questions, interact with us, give us comments and feedback on our episodes as you listen to them, view them, all that other kind of thing. We love the feedback. We want the feedback. We want to improve, and we want you guys to tell everyone you know about us so that we can become that outlet that you always go to for every single gaming related topic and anything that's gaming culture related. We want to be that outlet for you guys. So help us grow by interacting with us.
And if you want to give us any type of topic that you want to see us in the future, let us know. We'll probably bring it on. Be like, hey, this one guy, he said we should talk about anime games, and we're going to talk about them today. I don't know. Just making stuff up.
Any of that stuff. Definitely do it. John, let the people know, because I don't remember all the times when we're dropping all the rest of our content, our video and our audio content, and where we're dropping it, all that stuff.
Of course, the illustrious B.J. Brown. You can always catch us on Twitch. It's going to be Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And if you can't catch us live, that is totally fine. You can find us on YouTube. It's going to be Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. But if you prefer to listen to them in your ear holes instead of with your eye holes, you can always find us on different podcast services like podcast.com, Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes. And that's going to be on Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, visual representation for those of y'all who can see us. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, as always, we are the Shaded Pixels Podcast. You know when to reach it. You know where to reach us. You know where to find us. Listen, share, connect. Those are 3 words today. Listen, share, connect. We want to get better for y'all, and we can only do it with y'all. All right? We are out, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us in our abbreviated and slightly slimmed cast today.
All right. Catch you next week.
Later, everybody.